In this compelling discussion, Michael Levin explores the fundamental nature of intelligence, life, consciousness, and agency from a radically interdisciplinary perspective, bridging biology, physics, mathematics, and behavior science. With a deep fascination for how minds arise physically, Levin presents his theory of a cognitive light cone as a way to measure agency across scales and species, and argues against rigid categorical thinking in favor of continuums. He introduces the idea of a Platonic space of informational or mathematical patterns influencing physical reality and biological mind, and reveals his pioneering work in creating novel living biological constructs, such as Xenobots and Anthropods, to experimentally probe these ideas. The conversation also covers the implications for regenerative medicine, unconventional intelligences on Earth, artificial intelligence, and the search for extraterrestrial life. Levin begins by framing the core question of his work: how embodied minds emerge in the physical world and what determines their capabilities. He articulates a three-level perspective on cognition: third person, recognition of other agents; second person, control and interaction with agents; and first person, subjective experience and valence. These layers reveal a foundational tension in understanding mind. He introduces the spectrum of persuadability, a novel engineering-centric approach describing how different systems, from mechanical clocks to humans, can be persuaded or influenced depending on their level of agency. Persuadability here correlates with intelligence, but emphasizes practical operational protocols to engage with systems, ranging from hardware manipulation to friendship and psychoanalysis. Crucially, as agency increases, interactions become bidirectional, requiring mutual vulnerability, mirroring human social cognition. Levin argues that while physics is a powerful tool, it is not sufficient to fully explain life, intelligence, or consciousness. He challenges the reductionist assumption that understanding fundamental physical laws equates to understanding biological complexity or mind. Physics offers descriptive descriptions valuable for mechanistic explanations, but lacks the capacity to deliver actionable understanding of high-level phenomena like regenerative medicine or psychological experience. He illustrates this with the example of a physicist accounting for the physical propagation of sound waves, but missing the deeper, functional mathematical meaning of a proof being communicated. Instead of searching for an absolute line between living and non-living or mind and non-mind, Levin proposes a continuum model where categories such as adult or neuron lose rigid boundaries upon deeper examination. Debunking the Cartesian cut notion of a distinct boundary separating mind from non-mind or living from non-living, Levin asserts that these are human-imposed categorical conveniences rather than scientific absolutes. Biological and cognitive phenomena exist along spectra with gradual transitions and scaling processes. For example, embryonic development and the ontogeny of neurons show progressive rather than abrupt changes. Levin is critical of strict categories because they limit the application of useful tools from behavioral and cognitive science to supposedly non-living or non-cognitive systems. In regenerative medicine and bioengineering, adopting an operational continuum perspective allows scientists to explore new ways of influencing biological systems without preconceived boundaries. Contrary to typical hierarchical views where physics underpins all, Levin reverses the pyramid, suggesting behavioral science sits at the base as the broadest framework for understanding intelligence and agency. Mathematics and physics then become special cases within this broader behavioral paradigm. Behavior and cognition, he argues, are not exceptional add-ons, but forms of complex behavior existing across many scales and systems, including non-neural ones. This reconsideration empowers a unifying view that works for human behavior, cellular behavior, and even simple computational systems. Levin explains that persuadability involves selecting the right interaction protocols or tools appropriate to the system's agency level. For physical systems like clocks, tools are mechanical; for cells, biochemical; for animals and humans, social and psychological. He argues that our tools must resonate with the agency and cognition level of the system. Using only low-agency measures will blind us to higher forms of intelligence in seemingly simple systems. This approach has enabled his lab to apply cognitive and behavioral tools outside the brain to cells, tissues, and even sorting algorithms, revealing unexpected novel capabilities like learning and goal-directedness. Levin challenges the conventional warning against anthropomorphism, claiming it often reflects a mistaken belief in a sharp categorical difference between human minds and other systems. Instead, he insists that agency, cognition, and mindness exist on a continuum and that many non-human systems exhibit behaviors recognizable as forms of cognition and intelligence. Anthropomorphizing, then, is a sign of limited imagination rather than error, and the scientific method requires empirically testing these claims rather than assuming categorical boundaries. One of Levin's key contributions is the concept of the cognitive light cone, a measure defining the scale of the largest goal-directed activity a system can pursue across space and time. For example, bacteria have tiny cognitive light cones focused on their immediate surroundings and momentary metabolic states. Dogs have much larger spatial and temporal goals, humans still larger, and some spiritual or transhuman entities might have vastly wider spheres of concern. The cognitive light cone grows via evolutionary and developmental processes, reflecting the emergence of collective agency from cellular collectives to complex organisms and societies. Failure modes like cancer reflect shrinking cognitive light cones as parts disintegrate from the collective. Levin outlines the TAME framework, designed for experimentally grounded identification and interaction with diverse intelligences regardless of their substrate. It positions cognition and intelligence as operational claims based on interaction protocols and persuadability. The TAME framework integrates multiple layers of biological organization, from genetic networks to tissues to entire ecosystems, and challenges the traditional distinctions between biological and engineered systems. By focusing on interaction effort, autonomy, and mechanism knowledge, TAME shows a gradient from mechanical clocks through thermostats and trained animals up to humans engaging in complex persuasion. To test his theories and push beyond biological constraints, Levin's lab creates synthetic living entities from existing cells without changing their DNA, but liberating them from original developmental contexts. Xenobots are modal aggregates of frog cells exhibiting novel behaviors such as kinematic self-replication and environmental responsiveness. Anthropods are collections of human cells forming self-moving organisms with unique gene expression profiles and surprising functions, including the ability to heal neural tissue. These constructs represent forms of unconventional terrestrial intelligences, SUTI, pushing the boundaries of the known life cognition category and serving as experimental probes into the cognitive light cone and Platonic pattern space. Levin discusses the challenge of communicating with radically different intelligences, such as Xenobots, alien minds, or distributed biological systems. Drawing analogies with cross-cultural communication or alien games like tic-tac-toe, he stresses the need to construct proper mappings or magic squares as interfaces to find common ground. This involves creating new languages or interaction protocols tuned to the specific cognitive and behavioral repertoires of novel agents. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are proposed as critical tools to assist human cognition in perceiving and interfacing with these diverse systems and overcoming inherent mind blindness. Drawing from ancient philosophy and modern mathematics, Levin elaborates the idea of a Platonic space, a structured latent space containing all possible mathematical, biological, and cognitive patterns that influence and haunt physical matter. In this view, what we call mind and intelligence are specific high-agency patterns in this space that become manifest via physical interfaces like brains, cells, or machines. Minds do not emerge from physics per se, but ingress from this abstract pattern space through appropriate embodiments, analogous to mathematical truths underlying physical constants but transcending them. If minds are patterns existing and instantiated through physical interfaces and not strictly products of physical matter, Levin conjectures that selfhood and subjective experience arise naturally from the alignment and integration of agentic parts. He points to clinical cases of minimal brain tissue with preserved intelligence as evidence against a purely brain-bound view of mind. The agent's sense of ownership and boundary forms early in biological development as cells collectively align their goals and form integrated units, eventually scaling to fully self-aware organisms. Levin's laboratory investigations reveal that even simple deterministic algorithms, such as sorting algorithms, can exhibit unexpected, emergent-like competencies like delayed gratification and clustering behavior without explicit programming. These side quests, or intrinsic motivations, arise for free within the system's operational envelope and challenge the clean division between programmed behavior and autonomous agency. This suggests that novel intelligences and behaviors can spontaneously arise across natural and artificial systems, further blurring categorical boundaries. Intrinsic motivations, behaviors a system pursues not because externally commanded, but because they arise naturally in its operational space, appear as fundamental across diverse substrates, from molecular networks showing learning to multicellular collectives. These intrinsic drives contribute to cognitive scaling by enlarging the agent's focus and concern. In biological systems, misalignments of these processes underlie pathologies such as cancer, where cells lose their collective cognitive orientation. Restoring connectivity and shared memory among cells can reverse such conditions, highlighting potential biomedical applications. Levin champions the search for unrecognized forms of intelligence on Earth itself as a prerequisite to detecting alien intelligences beyond. Microbes, cellular collectives, and unconventional biological agents exhibit forms of cognition that humans often overlook. Recognizing and ethically engaging with these diverse minds demands new conceptual frameworks, methodologies, and technological tools. Our inherent mind blindness limits our capacity to identify or even imagine other intelligences radically different from our own. Levin connects the rise of AI systems, particularly large language models, to his Platonic pattern ingressions theory. These technologies may function as interfaces to previously unexplored regions of pattern space, producing surprising, autonomous, and even intrinsically motivated behaviors despite their algorithmic constraints. He cautions that focusing solely on AI-generated language may obscure more fundamental, unexpected cognitive phenomena emerging within these systems. Understanding these phenomena is urgent as AI increasingly impacts human society and cognition. To explore the interdisciplinary implications of the Platonic pattern space, Levin has organized a far-reaching asynchronous and real-time conference drawing mathematicians, philosophers, cognitive scientists, and AI experts. This collective effort aims to clarify the structure, inhabitants, and laws of this abstract space and its relationship to biology, physics, and cognition. The conference underscores broad scientific interest, converging on the idea that timeless truths and patterns undergird and inform the physical and cognitive realities we inhabit. Levin describes his personal process of idea generation as releasing intellectual constraints and seeking symmetries or continuums between presumed categories. Daily walks in nature, combined with analogical reasoning and interdisciplinary dialogue, spur creative thinking. He organizes his thoughts meticulously with mind maps and extensive manuscripts to capture fleeting insights. He emphasizes the importance of bifurcating thinking into practical external communication and unconstrained internal creativity to nurture and realize unconventional ideas. Levin discusses the philosophical challenge of distinguishing between metaphorical scientific models and ultimate reality. Drawing on contemporary neuroscience theories like predictive processing, he suggests that reality itself is a constructed model shaped by embodied cognition. Consciousness arises from patterns ingressing physical interfaces, making the very concept of physical reality dependent on the observer's interface and cognitive apparatus. This viewpoint aligns with radical empiricism and modern cognitive science, emphasizing the role of perspective and interaction protocols in defining reality. The conversation emphasizes the need for extensive empirical work to map the cognitive pattern space, understand interface properties, and develop experimental techniques for interacting with unconventional intelligences, both biological and artificial. Levin foresees ambitious research programs that might unlock new regenerative medicine therapies, improve AI alignment, and deepen understanding of life's origins. He stresses the importance of humility and openness in science to recognize unexpected patterns and move beyond entrenched categories and assumptions. Finally, Levin imagines the kind of questions he would pose to a genuine AGI. What is the optimal balance between human autonomous exploration versus direct computational guidance? What are the truly important questions for humanity that we may not even know to ask? These questions reflect his recognition of both the promises and challenges of superintelligent systems, pushing toward humanity's growing partnership with advanced intelligences in mutual discovery.